What's going on, people? Welcome to another episode of the Off the Ball podcast with me, your host, Chris LeBron, and we are streaming live on the Off the Ball Network Facebook page and on my page, Off the Ball Pod. Today's show, I got a hell of a show today. Really excited to have my guest on today. He is former NBA champion and 11-year NBA veteran, Scot Pollard. Scott, what is going on, my man?
I'm just living the dream. I'm here in Carmel, Indiana. It's thawed out a little bit today. The sun's shining, so I cannot complain.
Did you get snow?
Oh, we had an 8-year storm. But the last time it snowed like this was 2013, and we're not Minnesota, we're not South Canada. Like Indiana, where we live, central Indiana, it's fairly temperate. We don't get like 10 inches of snow. We got probably 7 or 8 over the last week or so. And like I said, it's melting now. It rained last night, melted a lot of it off. So temperatures in the 40s right now. Nobody's mad.
Yeah, I'm in New York City, and it just right when it stopped snowing and everything seemed to like, all right, snow's going away, boom, another snowstorm, and then that clears off, boom, another snowstorm.
Yeah.
It's just all that fun. But like I said, I thanks for coming on the show. I really appreciate it. You giving me this time. So let's talk a little bit about yourself and when was the first love for basketball? Was there a game? Was there a moment? Was there a team? What was that first moment that made you fall in love with basketball?
It was actually, it followed the biggest tragedy of my life. I played basketball since I was a little kid. My father is in the state of Utah Hall of Fame. I'm the youngest of 6 kids. I have 4 brothers and a sister. They all got recruited to play Division I basketball. My sister got recruited to play basketball and volleyball. She's the only one that didn't play Division I. She just chose not to. And so I'd been around basketball my whole life and was good. As a kid, I was playing rec league and all that stuff, and I had fun with it. Had fun. I played soccer. I played baseball. Played volleyball later on. But my sophomore year of high school, when my father passed away, I quit. And it didn't make sense to me to do that. Then about 2 weeks went by, and I realized what was missing in my life and what I needed to do. And that is when I fell in love with basketball. That is when I became very, very serious about basketball. And I think I smile more than anybody on the court ever in the history of basketball games because I had an absolute blast playing basketball my whole life from that point forward because it's weird, but, in your brain, the emotional opposites are connected, right? Mm-hmm. So my happiness on a basketball court was directly related to my rage for my father passing away. And I've only talked about that one other time on a podcast scenario or a situation like this, but I smiled on a court every time, but I was pissed off that my dad never got to see me play real good basketball, whether it was high school, college, or the NBA. But that's what started. That was my passion. That was my when I became very, very serious about basketball. It was because my dad passed away.
Yeah. And I could sort of relate because I lost my father at a really young age. And I always used to get jealous of the other kids when their dads would be on, at the games. And I'm like, man, it would have been cool. So I kind of had a little bit of that anger in me too. Yeah. I probably wasn't as tall as you. So I didn't, that's the only thing. But, I could kind of relate to that, having that, losing my father at a very young age and having that anger and just like, like just aggression and just like, man, like what if he was here and what if he see me play on the court, so I could kind of relate to that, and I appreciate you sharing that story with me. So when was that realization when you started to feel like I'm actually pretty decent at basketball?
Well, as I said, my whole family is a basketball family. I got my first recruiting letter in 7th grade. But as you can tell, if you're in it, that's not because of anything I was doing on a basketball court. It was because I had 4 brothers that are all 7 feet or bigger. So
really, they're all 7 foot.
Yeah. So I mean, they knew I was going to be big. So it wasn't. They were just basically gambling. It wasn't like, oh, he's dominating. It was just, hey, there's another footer coming down the pipeline. We don't want to miss out. Here's a letter. What's that going to hurt, right? So that didn't go to my head. That didn't make me think, okay, yeah, I'm good. It felt good. It felt cool. But I started getting a lot of recruiting letters. Actually, my sophomore year, I was on varsity that year, and for the first time, and played with a lot of anger, and got a lot bigger physically. I was 185 my freshman year. My sophomore year, I got to about 220, 225.
You were a big boy. You were a big boy.
Well, I was this height. I was 6'11", so I was kg size, in that size, at that age. But then my senior year, I got to about 235, 240, and then I started really knocking people around and doing damage. And I was the 33rd ranked in the country player overall, I believe, coming out of high school. So I had my pick, and that's when I realized that college was going to be free. And then from there it was, the NBA is just a dream. It always has been until and it's a totally different story. But to shorten it, until my senior year when college scouts were coming to the games, which they were my whole 4 years of college. But my coach finally pulled me aside one game and he said, "There's some college scouts here, young man." I said, "I know, there always are. I play with the best." I got Paul Pierce, Rafe LaFrance. Earlier in my career, I got Greg Ostertag, Jock Vaughn. It was a lot of project after our junior year, but he came back for our senior year. Jared Haas was on that team, who's now the head coach at Stanford. We had talent, I knew there was always NBA scouts in the stands, and he goes, "No, son, they're here for you this time." And so I was like, wow. And that was my senior year. So, it was high school. It was when I started, I got some awards. I got national awards. I got local awards, but then I started getting national awards. And I got CIF Player of the Year in San Diego. And then I went to the state of Washington for my senior year. And I got the state Player of the Year in Washington. And then, parade All-American, like third team or something like that. Like, hey, there he is. He's over there on the West Coast. No one cares about you. There was several indicators, but nothing ever went to my head because, again, I had giant brothers knocking me down off my pedestal every chance they got. So I never got full of myself.
Yeah. How were those battles? You just said you have 3 brothers that were 7 foot. So how was those battles, and how was it just living with a bunch of, you guys are big. That's not average, not a lot of parents are walking around with a bunch of 7-footers in their home. So how was that just growing up with a bunch of tall brothers?
There's a reason I was skinny when I was a kid. I was the last one to get the food, They're all crabbing the food.
You get a lot of food. I'm sure the grocery bills were high.
and I got pushed to the side. So, but no, when I was 10 years old, my oldest brother was already out of the house. My whole family is Mormon. And so when he turned 18, he went on a mission. And let's see, no, I was 8 years old because he's 12 years older than me. So he went on his mission at 18 years old, and he was gone. Then he went to college. Next brother was just a year behind him. So the older 2 were, out of the house before I was even in middle school. And then the younger 2, the youngest brother that I have is 5 years older than me. And so when we moved down to San Diego, he was going into a senior year of high school. I was going into 7th grade. And so, playing against them, don't have a lot of memories of playing against them because they all played against each other. They were a lot closer in age than I was, being, with the 5-year gap between me and the youngest one. And so just watching them was where I got proficient, I guess, at being able to analyze other people's talents, mistakes, proclivities. And I think that helped me in my game because I was very good at watching somebody do something good or something bad and making sure I incorporate that in my game or take that and make sure I don't do that in my game without necessarily having to repeat it physically. I could see things and try to do them, not always perfectly, but I think that was one of my skills because of my age with the footers that were all older than me. And if I dared challenge them, it didn't go well.
That's great. So talk to me about the process of choosing Kansas. Was that an easy choice, or did it come down to a few schools as far as the process? And I'm always interested in knowing about whenever I've had a lot of people who have, college kids that have talked to me about the process. I'm always fascinated about that. So for you, how was that process? Was it easy, or was it, did it come down to a few schools before choosing Kansas?
Well, I don't know how the rules are now. Back then, you were allowed to take 5 official visits, and I think you could take as many unofficial visits as you wanted. So I had scheduled my official visits for BYU because my mom made me, UCLA because I grew up in San Diego and I wanted to go to UCLA really badly. I wanted to stay close to home. Arizona, which was on the list because, again, close to home, but I had been to Lute Olson's basketball camp. I was the head coach at the time. And then LSU because Dale Brown, the preacher man, he had coached Shaquille O'Neal and told me I was going to go to Shaq, which I thought was hilarious. I was 15, 16, whatever I was at the time. And I was like, yeah, I know I'm not going to be the next Shaq. I mean, you have to lie to me like that. I'm a leader. Oh, there's a difference. He goes, no, but you could be the next one. I was like, yeah. But there was a good rumor going around that he was offering large dollar amounts for recruits. And so I just wanted to take that trip to see what he was going to offer me in person because he wasn't going to say it over the phone, right? Mm-hmm. And Kansas was on that list. So I went to UCLA. They took me to a party. Wasn't my scene. I was not a party kid. I wasn't a drinker until I was probably a senior in college. Was the first time I really had alcohol. So that wasn't my scene. And the coach I didn't get along with, Coach Herrick at the time. And then went to BYU. They took me horseback riding. Also not my scene.
Wait, horseback riding? That was their pitch to you, was going horseback riding? And
yeah. I was like, swing and a miss.
What would make them think, all right, this tall, 6'11", 7 foot, let's take him horseback riding? Why? Did they tell you why, or that was just what they thought you would like?
Well, they knew my family was Mormon. I think they assumed I was Mormon, so I didn't want to go to a party or a club or whatever because I had already been to UCLA and said, hey, they took me to a party. I didn't want to go to it. But there's no parties in Provo anyway. No alcohol out anywhere on campus. So it was just awkward. It didn't work. Also, didn't really like the way the coach just because it didn't make sense. Like I could see through the empty promises. He's like, oh, you and Sean Bradley are going to be great together. You'll be a 1-2 punch. And I was like, Sean Bradley's not coming back to college. He's on his mission right now, and he's getting back, and he's going to the NBA. Yeah. I'm not playing with Sean Bradley in college. And he was like, no. No, he's not. And he didn't. But so that one just didn't work out. And then went to Arizona. They took me to a party, and that one worked.
Who was at Arizona at the time? Was it like Richard Jefferson and all those guys?
No, I'm older than them. This was, Ed Stokes was their big guy who was
I remember.
I can't even remember. I think Reggie, can't remember his last name. We were going to be the same age. And then my senior year, Mike Bibby was there. I would have ended up playing.
Okay.
And Jason Terry was there. Miles Simon was there during my time, but I'm older than them as well. But anyway, they weren't on the radar for me to go there because of them. I can't remember who all was on the team, but I just remember here's a fact about me. I like tan skin and long black hair if you're a female. My wife is 6 feet tall, and she's got tan skin and long black hair. That's kind of my thing. And so if you look at me on Twitter or my Facebook, we're very close. We post a lot of pictures. We're kind of gross. Yeah. Post a lot of pictures.
No, it's adorable. It's adorable.
So when I went to that party in Arizona, there was, being in that region of the country, there's a lot of girls with tan skin and long black hair. So I verbally committed to Lute Olson, probably not thinking with the right head. But it was close to home. It was a place I wanted to be. Great coach I respected. And then I had my trip to Kansas scheduled. I went to Kansas, and old Roy gave me to a host, and the host took me bowling because I told him I didn't want to go to a party. I was tired of all these trips. I just wanted to go see the campus, hang out with some of the guys, and whatever they're going to take me to make me do, and just go home because I was tired of all the trips by now. And so they took me bowling, which whatever, hit or miss, Then they took me to late night. And then back then it was the first practice of the year, and it was at midnight. It was free, and there were 17,000 people in there for a practice. Now, in San Diego, it's an outside town. I had packed gyms for my games in high school because we were very good. But you're talking 2,000 to 3,000 people where we went, in our home gym. We weren't talking 10,000 people. I never had seen in San Diego 10,000 people even in the same place because nobody goes inside. In San Diego State, USD, those were the college teams there. They didn't get that kind of crowd because they weren't that good. But also, nobody goes inside San Diego. They're front running city. You got to be really good for them to show up and watch and take time away from the wonderful weather and be in a stadium.
Yes.
So 17,000 people for a practice. I was like, yeah. I said, Jock. I called him afterwards, Jock Vaughn, because he was getting recruited by the same people, obviously. We're from the same area, Southern California. And he goes, where are you going? I was like, look, I'm not going just because you're going, but if you go to Kansas, I'd really like to go there. And so we kind of made an unofficial package deal, not with any pressure from anybody else, but we had played in an all-star game together and got along. And then we decided to be roommates, and we were roommates all 4 years and best man at each other's weddings. And
oh, that's awesome.
We're still very close to this day. And he's a day older than me, so he's old balls to me.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So you get to Kansas, and how is it? How is it living up to what you're expecting? Play as far as playing time, environment. Were you homesick when you first got there? Because you always hear those stories when you first, were freshmen getting homesick. Was there any of that happening?
No, I actually. So, quick story. As my dad died my sophomore year, so I stayed my junior year in San Diego, and then my mom had left during my junior year to go up and live with one of my brothers up in Washington State. So I stayed alone and kind of bummed around with friends. I was kind of couch surfing. You could say, "Oh, I was homeless," but I don't call myself a victim or consider myself a victim either. Anyway, I chose to stay in San Diego, and I just kind of bummed around with friends and whoever would take me in and go to school down there. And then going into my senior year, my mom made me move up. So I moved up to the state of Washington, but when basketball had ended, I had already turned 18. I said, bye, Mom. And so I already left home and went back to San Diego, played volleyball again in the spring, and we got San Diego section champions, and I think I got player of the year that year. It was either my junior or senior year in volleyball. And so there was teams recruiting me for volleyball too. They were like, hey, we'll let you play volleyball too. That wasn't concerted, but it was cute. But so my point is, I left at 18 in February or whenever the basketball season was over in the state of Washington. And I went back and got an apartment for a while, got a job, lost my apartment because I didn't have any money, went back to living with friends, graduated, and I went to Kansas. So I didn't miss it. But, Kansas, you hear the how big of a deal it is. And I didn't really know much about it. I didn't know Wilt Chamberlain went to school there. I didn't know much about the history of Kansas. I didn't want to be that far east. I didn't think I was going to be anywhere east of Tucson, Arizona, at the University of Arizona. I didn't want to be that far. I wanted to be west, stay in the west. I like it out there. And so we were getting by. We're doing stuff. We're having fun. We're realizing you get a lot of free gear and practices are hard. And we play Indiana. It's one of our first big games in our freshman year. And we kind of did a good job on Calvert Cheney, but Damon Bailey went off on us, got 33 points, and just had a game. And at the end of the game, my man Jock Vaughn came down and hit a game winner. And let me tell you, I don't remember ever being that surprised at how loud 17,000 people could be in one building. And it was incredible. And I've got chills just thinking about it right now. So the cool thing about that was, to answer your question in long form, that's when we realized how big time we were at Kansas, because we got back to our dorm, which had a secure entry. You had to know a code to get in or have the key fob to unlock the magnetic door. And we get up to our room on the 4th floor, and our door is covered with numbers and congrats, Jock, and balloons. I mean, people had come and attacked our door because Jock hit a game-winning shot. I mean, it was really – we were both like, whoa. So it was that was our first inclination of how cool it was to be a Kansas basketball player.
Yeah, I mean the history of Kansas. I mean it speaks for itself and all that. So I want to talk about your last year at Kansas. You guys had a really good season. Like you said, you're playing with a bunch of future NBA pros, and all that. It didn't end the way you guys wanted to, right? You lose to Arizona. Talk to me about that season and just going into that that Final Four game against Arizona and just the tough loss against them.
Well, we started out the season. Jock broke his wrist in a pickup game, so we started the season without our best point guard, maybe the best one that Kansas had ever had at that point. I mean, he reset the assist record, and so Jock missing Jock was an incredible blow to us to begin the season, and still we started out because our backup Ryan Robertson, who ended up being teammates with me years later in Sacramento for a year, he made it in the NBA for a little bit. He took the reins and he was great.
Mm-hmm.
We just had such depth on that team. It was incredible. Four of our starting five were all first-round picks, and we all played over 10 years in the NBA. That's an incredible stat.
That's not easy to happen. Not easy to do.
No, and so that right there was just enough to tell you like our starting five was great. But our backup guys, we had a couple of backup guys like Brian Robertson, Billy Thomas, Nick Bradford played overseas for a while. But these guys played semi-professional or professional basketball for years too. So. We had incredible depth, and so we're rolling along, and this guy would get hurt. Jared played most of the season with a broken wrist, and he didn't know. He just kept playing and taping it. So his shot started getting off towards the end of the season, and it was off for that Arizona game. That Arizona game was not his fault, though. That's not where I'm going with that. But we got up to 23-0, and I had broken my foot because I turned my ankle. And I didn't want to miss any games. And so I wrapped up my ankle real tight and kept playing. And I had this brace in my ankle that was just making me walk weird. And it put all the pressure on my forefoot. And so I played another game or two like that. And then I was walking home from class, and I was walking with one of my good friends, Brian, and my foot snapped on the way home from class.
Oh, my God.
The middle of my foot, my big metatarsal snapped, and he goes, "What was that?" I was like, "I think I just broke my foot." And so we parted ways. He walked home, and I went to the trainer's office, and they're like, "Yeah, you broke your foot." So I had to sit out a couple games because of that, and that's when we lost to Missouri, and that hurt so freaking bad. Because we wanted to be the first team to sweep the Big 12. It was the first year of the Big 12, so we wanted to sweep it. It was Missouri, which Roy always got us pumped up for Missouri. And that border war was founded in blood. They literally had Civil War implications, pro-slavery, anti-slavery. That was actually the beginning of the border war between Kansas and Missouri. So that border war was just incredible. And so to lose to them our senior year, just that hurt so bad. Now, that was one of the greatest basketball games ever. And it sucks because I wasn't in it. But Rafe LaFrance had an absolute monster game, double overtime, still almost won the game for us with the last second shot. Billy Thomas was incredible for us, getting us back into that game, shooting threes. The depth really showed in that game when everybody was tired. I was out completely because of my injury, but I mean, it was just a battle. It was such a great game. Anyway, we get past that. I get back in the lineup. We get back to the playoffs, and we're in there in the playoffs, NBA stuff with the tournament, and we're sitting there playing the Arizona Wildcats, and who the hell is this team that got like fourth place in the Pac-10, which it was back then, and now it's the Pac-12. But like they came out of nowhere. They had like 7 or 8 losses. They weren't that good during the regular season.
Right, and they were fairly low at seed, right?
They were. Yeah, we were the number 1 seed. I think they were like 7 or 8. I mean, I don't know what seed they were exactly, but we were just not that we were overlooking them, but at the same time, as the game is going, we're like, who is this? Like, why are they even hanging with us at all? This team, they just could not miss, man. Mike Bibby, Miles Simon was a monster against us. Their guards, they were amazing. And Jared was having problems with his wrist. It was worse. And as I said, it was broken, and he was playing with a broken wrist. But that's not why we lost. Jock didn't have the greatest game, but it wasn't why we lost. We had a team loss. I got my fourth foul with 19 minutes to go in the game. You only get 5 in college.
You only get 5, yeah. You only get 5 in college, and those are precious.
Yeah, I mean, excuse my French, but I looked at the ref when he called that foul, and I said, "You just fucking ended my career, you fucking asshole." And he didn't even tee me up. He didn't, because he knew he fucked up. He knew he made a bad call. And I'm sorry for my language. I know we're live, and I'm sorry.
Okay.
That's a direct.
I could feel that. I could feel that in your voice that still bothered you that call was made.
Yeah, it did. And for him to not even throw me a technical foul for MFing him twice.
That's how you know he messed up.
He just walked away. He was just like, or whatever. And maybe he didn't even care at all. But he didn't give me a technical foul, which he definitely should have for what I said.
Yeah, for sure, yeah.
Still had chances to win, a couple last-second threes, tremendous comeback by the guys that filled in and tried to make us win that game. Again, our bench was big for us. Billy Thomas came in. B.J. Williams came in for me. Dr. T.J. Pugh, he's a doctor now. He was a monster, also came in and filled in for me because I was out. There was no reason to get me back in the game. We were coming back. And so I just sat there and watched with heartache. And so it was miserable. It was a miserable experience, worse than the Missouri game, because at least with the Missouri game, we had more games left. We didn't get to see, and it was a Missouri loss. But this was my last game as a college player. And it ended my career literally as a college player. So it was awful. It was an awful, awful experience. It still makes me very sad when I think about it. I'll never, ever get over that because we wanted to be the first team to win Roy Williams a championship. We owed him that for everything that he put into all of us, assembling us and making us men, teaching us the game of life. The game of basketball was secondary with Roy always. And we wanted to so badly to win that for him. And so it kills me to this day. It bothers me. And then I end up with teammates with Mike Bibby years later in Sacramento. Hey, man. And it was no big deal to him. He was there to win, but he even admitted, he was like, man, we weren't that good. We just caught fire and won 6 in a row. That's it.
They got hot.
Yeah. That's all it's in college.
Yeah, we see that a lot with a college team. We saw that UConn team with Kemba. I mean, they got hot, the Big East tournament, and they rolled all the way to win a national championship. So it's just a matter of getting hot. You guys felt like you could have beat Kentucky, right?
Every day, every week.
Mm-hmm.
There was nobody we couldn't beat. We were the best team in college basketball by far. We were number one from start to finish. We knew we had guys on our bench that were better than most players in college basketball. We did. We absolutely did. We had that confidence. Not we were overconfident. It wasn't that. But it was just that we knew how good we were. Mm-hmm. And yes, there is the one loss, but that knocks you out. And that's why they call it madness. But we knew we were the best team. We knew there was nobody that was better than us. We knew that if we laced them up and played another 40 minutes against Arizona that night, we beat them by 20.
Yeah,
we knew it. We just knew, and so it just hurt. I mean, I don't think anybody wasn't crying after that game. I don't remember anybody not crying because we let you let the whole team down. They chant that when you miss a free throw or something like that. We felt like we let our whole team down. We let our coach down. We let our university down. At least I felt that way, and I looked like everybody else felt the same way.
Yeah, I mean, how long did it take for you to not get over? Because you're still not over, but how long did it hurt? Going back to campus, and I'm sure you were just couldn't even go to class. You just how long did it take to finally all right, I got to get past this loss?
You get past it because life moves on. We had to get back to class. I graduated. I was graduating, and I was getting married for the first time. Dummy. And so we're not married anymore. So I was complicating my life in ways I shouldn't have at that age. So I was busy. Life was moving forward, and so I had all-star games to go to, camps to go to, the NBA Combine, all of that stuff was humming down the road, and I had my college counselor helping me out, keeping me online, so I was, not the kind of online we have now. We had to use stone tablets in my day, but it was hard. So yeah, I mean, you kind of get past it because life moves on.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the losses definitely hurt more than the wins in a lot, that definitely, and like you said, you still can't get over it. Yeah. So you're getting ready for the draft. You get drafted in the first round. Talk about that experience. Were you at the draft?
No. So back then, it wasn't as big a deal as it is now. Again, we're talking
Today's crazy.
1997 now. So I was projected late first round, early second round. And I went to work out for the teams that were 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, and 28. I skipped 27, which was the Utah Jazz, because I was born in Utah and I'm related to most of the state. And I had a meeting with the GM in Phoenix. I think we were at one of those college all-star camps. And he was like, perfect fit. Jerry Sloan loves you. That was the coach at the time. And I said, Scott, his name was Scott Layden. I said, Scott, listen, you're right. I'd love to play for Jerry Sloan. But I said, I am not mature enough to deal with my off-the-court problems. He goes, what are you talking about? I said, I could fill that arena for 41 home games and still piss off family members. I said, I just can't do it. There's just too much history with the Pollard family there. As I said earlier, my dad's in the State of Utah Hall of Fame. And I'm not trying to be egotistical or arrogant about it. I'm just saying I have a whole lot of family there. Right?
Yeah.
Like raising 4,000 people that are directly closely related to you. You just can't do it. And again, it was me knowing I wasn't capable of managing that in my personal life. It wasn't my family. It wasn't them at all. It was all me. And so I told them I'm not coming to Utah. So that's the only team I didn't work out for that was in the later part of the draft. Detroit had the first pick of the second round, and that's why they worked me out. But listen up, kids. This is a testament to hard work. This is a lesson, okay? I worked out for 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, and 28, the defending champion Chicago Bulls. And every single team I worked out for said they were going to take me if I was still available. So the Detroit Pistons, who had the 19th pick also, that they were not planning on using on me, took me because they were impressed at my workout, but they wanted me for the second round, but they knew I wasn't going to be there. So they took me at 19. That is a testament to hard work. I busted my ass at all those camps. Every single workout I went to, I busted ass. I made a guy quit. I'm not going to say his name because he got drafted after me. But there was a city I went to, and he walked out. He said, F it. I don't want to work. I don't want to play here anyway. And he quit. I made him quit. Ooh. And so that was a big moment for me because I'm at the draft in Las Vegas, not in New York. I'm in Las Vegas watching it at the sports book because, as I was saying, it wasn't on national TV. So there was nowhere to watch it in Las Vegas. And I was like, you know what? I had just gotten married, as I said. And I'm sitting there in the sports book. We can't hear it because there's TVs all over the sports book. Can't have a phone in the sports book because at the time, I don't know what it's like now. I don't gamble on sports, but I'm assuming you can't have your phone in there and make deals while it's going on up here. That's how it was back then. Anyway, I started seeing Kansas highlights, and I'm like, finally, Jock got drafted because he was higher than me. And I'm like, all right, cool. I'm like, wow, it's a lot of me in these highlights. My phone rings, and I'm like, oh. And I get on my phone, I'm like, hello. And they're like, hi, this is the Detroit Pistons. We just picked you with the 19th pick. I'm like, all right. And somebody comes over and goes, sir, you have to leave.
Oh, they thought you...
Walk outside, and that was my draft night. I was in the sports book in Las Vegas. I don't even remember which hotel it was now. And I immediately booked a flight and flew from Vegas to Detroit to do the press conferences the next day.
That's awesome. You played 11 years in the NBA. I mean, that's impressive. I mean, to play that long. I mean, the lifespan. I mean, they say 3 to 4 years is the average lifespan of an NBA player. What's your philosophy on why you were able to have play 10 plus years in the league?
My work ethic, my ability to fit into a team schematic, and again, 3 years of high school, all 4 years of college, and 10 out of 11 years in the NBA. Every year but my Detroit Pistons rookie year, I played in the postseason. And that is not because of me, but it's fortunate that I was on teams like that. I was always on very, very good teams. And so I learned what to do to make teams better. And when you No, like there's only a handful of superstars in the NBA. There's not 40. There's a handful of them.
Yes.
Everyone else that thinks they're a superstar and keeps on thinking that their whole career, their career ends at 3 or 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
They won't take a back seat. Everyone besides those handful of superstars is a role player. The sooner you figure that out, even though you're one of 450 in the world, you're one of the 450 best in the world. As soon as you figure out you're a role player, you figure out a niche, you figure out how to play with the superstar, make the superstar happy, make your team win, you last longer. I figured that out at a young age because of the exposure I had from my brothers, from my teams, my teammates, college, coaches, all of that. And I put it to use in the NBA. And there's a whole lot of people that thought maybe I shouldn't last that long in the NBA. But I'll tell you what, I figured out how to last a lot longer than people that were a lot more talented, taller, stronger, you name it.
Mm-hmm.
I played a lot longer than a lot of those people. In fact, most of them.
Yeah.
Because there's only been 3,300 NBA players ever.
And you're part of that. You're one of them. That's awesome.
And there's only been, I read the stat, how many first-round draft picks there's ever been. And it's not that many, and I'm one of them. So, when you get those opportunities, you either figure out how to take advantage of them, which I did, I think. And I think I could have played longer, but, towards the end of my career, I was not working out as much as I should have. I had 3 kids, and I blame myself. I don't blame anybody else. But I was spending time with my kids, with my wife, my marriage wasn't that good. I was trying to keep that one together, and I wasn't working out. You can't be a great professional athlete and a great family man. I can't name one. When you're one of those superstars, you have people for that.
Mm-hmm.
You get to go, hey, for the camera, here's my kid, like Tom Cruise, showing up and being like, oh yeah, I'm a father. But then somebody else takes care of that kid 23 out of 24 hours for the rest of its life. And Tom just comes in for the photo op. I'm not knocking Tom Cruise as a dad. He might be a wonderful father. All I'm saying is, to be the best that you can be, you have to devote 100% of your mind and time to be one of the 450 best in the world. And towards the end of my career, I made a miscalculation on how much time I could spend working out versus how much time I could spend with my family. And I spent too much time with my family. No regrets, none at all. But I got injured because I was out of shape towards the end of my career. I probably could have lasted a few more years.
Yeah, and that's a beautiful thing. So I want to ask you a few more things before I let you go. Like I said, I appreciate the time you allowed me to chat with you, Scott. This really means a lot. We're on the Off the Ball Network Facebook page and Off the Ball Pod Twitter. You had some battles with the Lakers in the hate. I mean, that was probably. I mean, I grew up with that rivalry. That was an intense. How intense was that rivalry? Because it as a fan, we could see it, but you were in the trenches. You were battling with Shaq. Talk to me just how intense those battles were.
Well, I got nicknamed the Shaq Stopper, which I thought was comical because
yes, I remember that.
Stopped Shaquille O'Neal. People are like, "Oh man, I don't know what it would be like to guard Anthony Davis in his prime." I'm like, I had Shaq prime. I had prime Shaq. Sorry, I know Anthony Davis is amazing. He is incredibly talented, and he might be way better skill-wise than Shaq. But nobody beats you up like Shaq. Nobody out.
A lot of ice baths. I bet you had a lot of ice baths.
I mean, I actually had a spine fracture. They don't know how, but they think it's because I just took a lot of blows, a lot of charges, and fell on my ass a lot. I had a fracture in my sacrum. Look it up. I'm the only NBA player, only professional athlete that's a male that's ever had that injury. Anyway, it's not fun. But Shaq was, if I wasn't, I don't know. I'd like to think that because we had a good on-court rapport, because we talked with each other, we would joke with each other. I never was dirty with Shaq. I never pushed him in the back when he wasn't looking. When it was a hard foul, it was because he had the ball and I hit the ball and I'd hit his arm too, just to make sure he wasn't going to score if I could. I'm not saying I always did that, but I'm saying if I could stop him from scoring and I'm fouling him, I tried to make sure he didn't score also. And I think, again, we haven't talked since then, but I think that's why he never swung on me like he swung on other guys. You know,
Brad Miller almost got it.
right? Exactly. Next, Brad Miller might be done. That might be the end of Brad Miller, and I know Brad really well. That's not a shot you want to take.
No. Like that was scary watching that. Like the way Shaq swung and like Brad's really lucky that he didn't connect because that looked like it would have probably ended his career.
It could have. I mean, look at Kermit Washington.
Yeah.
For the reason that he just destroys a guy's face and then gets blackballed. But Shaq wouldn't get blackballed like Kermit Washington did. But anyway, again, Google that one, kids. You probably don't know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, that was scary too.
Rudy Tomjanovich became a coach because he was done.
Yeah, scary.
That's why they have weight classes in boxing and wrestling and all that stuff, because it's not fair when a 7 foot tall, 300-pound man hits a 5'10", 155-pound man. It's just not.
Exactly.
You know, it's a death blow. If I haul back and I kick somebody, it's a death blow. It's
that's for sure.
You might die. And I'm not bragging. I've never been in a fight in my life because of that. Because I have big brothers that used to beat the crap out of me, and I don't want to ever make anybody else feel like that.
Yep.
Those rivalries were incredible. They were the best. We had fights, NBA fights. Hold me back.
Yeah.
Where there were, I think, occasionally fines. I don't know how many people got suspended ever, or if any, during those fights anyway. But they were incredible wars. You know, they threw out the term the Sacramento Queens, which is pretty easy. I mean, that's low-hanging fruit if you're a comedian. But, you know, that's what they called us, and so that's how you knew you were getting at them. I mean, these guys are the NBA champs, and they're calling us the Sacramento Queens. That's fear. That means, you know, they knew we were coming at them. And my 01-02 was our best season against them. I think we got them in the regular season series, and then we're going in #1 record in the league. We had home court advantage throughout, get to the Western Conference Finals, and damn, we could not knock those bastards off. And we were better. We knew it. The same kind of mentality I was talking about with college earlier. We knew we were better. We had the best record in the league for a reason. We had ways to beat them, and it just didn't work out that way. You know, everybody wants to talk about Game 6 of that 02 Western Conference Finals. I know that's where you're going next, Chris. So I'll just answer it for you. It might have been fixed. I don't know. I'm not saying it was. I'm not saying it wasn't. All I'm saying is we had Game 7. We had home court edge, and we had Game 7. So whatever happened in Game 6, we went home and we crapped the bed in front of our own fans. We should have gone home angry for whatever reason. Even if we think it was fixed, we should have gone home angry and regrouped and been more mentally tough and been champions and won the game. But you know what happened? The Hall of Famers, Kobe Bryant and Shaquille O'Neal, came to our house and they did Hall of Fame type stuff. Yeah. They were the champions because they came into our house, Game 7, hostile environment, and they beat us on our court for Game 7, which everybody knew that year was the NBA Finals because all they had to do was go walk over the Nets. And everybody knew that anybody that was going to the finals against the Nets was going to walk all over them. They had nothing to deal with us. They had nothing. Yeah. Nets could not hang with the Lakers. They couldn't hang with us. And they knew it. In fact, I played with Brian Scalabrine in Boston years later. And Brian told me he was on that Nets team. He said, we didn't even start scouting the Lakers until like Game 5 because we knew you all were going to win. That was Brian Scalabrine saying that to me as a New Jersey Net in 2002, saying, yeah, we didn't even scout the Lakers until Game 5 because we just figured you guys were going to win. The Kings were going to win. And so, you know, that's how we knew and everybody else knew we should have won that series. But, hey, you know what? Guess who won? The Lakers did.
Which one hurts more, the loss to the Lakers or losing to Arizona in college?
Oh, it's Arizona because you're playing for free. Well, I was. Not everybody I know in college played for free, but I played for free. I just got a scholarship and I used it and I graduated. But no, I really, really love Roy Williams. I still love Roy Williams to this day. I really, really wanted to be the one on the team that gave him his first national championship. That one will always hurt worse. And I was on that college team, that Kings team in 03-04 with the Pacers. We got to the Eastern Conference Finals and we lose against Detroit. And 07, I get to the finals with the Cleveland Cavaliers, and we get swept by the San Antonio Spurs. And then I finally get one with the Boston Celtics after my ankles gave out, and I had to get career-ending surgery. And so I watched the playoffs as a Boston Celtic, but I got a championship ring. I mean, talk about that hurts. There's a whole lot of things. It's like, well, it was awesome to win a championship, but my ankles were both broken. Like they weren't broken, but messed up, and I had to get them both rebuilt. So there's a whole lot of highs and lows being an athlete, and especially one that's had a career and being as blessed as I was to have such a long career and be on so many great teams that coulda, woulda, shoulda. And my high school team should have won one in San Diego, and we lost in the state playoffs. My high school team in Washington State should have won one. We lost in the state finals. We took fourth place, I think. And then college, we talked about NBA, all those teams. So I was always fortunate to be on good teams and had a great career. And I just try to remember the good times because, yeah, you said it, Chris. Those losses hurt more than the wins.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm still can't get over losses when I was in high school and in junior high school. I still think about to this day. So, I know those hurt. But I have one question here from someone asked me, what inspired the hairstyle? Oh yeah, you had a lot of hairstyle, Scott. So what inspired those looks?
There's really no reason. There never was. I dyed my hair in 7th grade for the first time. I had a mohawk, kind of a faux hawk. I didn't shave the sides bald, but I had a faux hawk in 7th or 8th grade. It was always something, and the justification was, hey, it'll grow back, And then when I could grow facial hair towards the end of college, and then in the NBA, it became, the hair and the facial hair. But there really was never any rhyme or reason other than, hey, let's see what that looks like.
Mm-hmm.
And have some fun with it, shave it off, start over again. So now I don't have that option. It's the widow peaks have creeped back all the way. And
I'm done, and I'm only 30. I'm 32, and I've been done for a while.
Pretty sure I'm just going to be like this for the rest of my life. I might mess with the beard once in a while, but really I just kind of keep it very conservative now. I'm a real estate broker, so I don't want to scare my clients.
Yes. And you were on Survivor, and a lot of people, when I told people I was doing this show and said, oh, I got 11-year NBA vet, NBA champion, a lot of people said, talked about Survivor. That was the number one thing was Survivor. So talk to me about, before we sign off, talk to me about that experience on Survivor.
Well, it's people forget it's a game show,
Mm-hmm.
I'll never be invited back, and here's why. I had a blast. It was fun. I was walking around the island singing, and the producers had to keep running over to me and yelling at me to shut up because I'm singing Frank Sinatra in the background, and they can hear me across the island in the background of or whatever they're filming over there, and they're like, we don't have the rights to that song, so shut up, stop singing. And so then I started singing songs and making up my own lyrics. And they were like, hey, we can still hear you singing. I was like, it's not copyrighted. You can play it. It's fine. I won't sue you. It's my material. I won't sue you over my material. And even then they were like, we don't want to hear you sing in the background. And, I wonder why. I was a villain, right? They can't show the jovial guy that's laughing, making cracking jokes and telling everybody, stories about the league or whatever and having people have fun. That didn't mix with the edit I was getting. And it was fun. Even when I was watching it, I'm like, oh man, I called a producer before it aired, and I go, what do you think? Am I gonna like it? He goes, you like the first 3 episodes, and I was like, oh sweet. Now it wasn't a surprise because when you think about it, this is fact. It's about 3 days of real life for 1 episode. And so when I give speeches to people, corporations or whatever, I get hired once in a while. I give speeches. I say, think about your last 3 days and edit your last 72 hours into 40 minutes because that's what an episode is, 20 minutes commercials, right? Edit your last 72 hours into 40 minutes and be the best 40 minutes you can be. Because everybody does dumb things every day, makes really genius decisions every day, or your brightest decision of that day. You get happy, you get sad, you get emotional, you make mistakes. Are you going to dwell on that edit? Is that edit going to be your edit? Or are you going to control it and make it positive and make that 40 minutes your life and think about trying to make that best 40 minutes out of every 72 hours? Because that's exactly what Survivor is. And you have all those characters and all those people that interact with each other. And what makes good TV? When everything goes according to plan and the big dumb caveman gets his way? No, it's when the big dumb caveman is a big dumb caveman and he's mean to people. Like, that's more fun. So we edit that part and we show that part. Instead of him being good, and I couldn't talk about my kids contractually. contractually. I had to have my ex-wife sign off on me participating. This is a fact also.
Oh, wow.
Part of the deal for signing off so I could leave the country, because we have joint custody of my kids, and I can say this now, I couldn't say it on Survivor, I had to never speak about my children while I was filming Survivor. And that is a fact. I could not speak about my kids. One time, Jason and I, he had kids. Jason's the bearded guy for my season, and we're still very close to this day. We're the only ones with wives and kids. We'd start talking about them, and the producer would come over like, Scott, you can't talk about it because we can't use this footage because you're talking about it. So stop. You can't talk about your kids. So then Jason would talk about his kids, and I'm sitting there like, yeah.
That's a weird. That's just a weird vibe.
There's nothing endearing about a big caveman that has no kids.
Yeah.
Free. So it's pretty easy for them to edit me into a villain. And again, I've played in movies. I've been an axe murderer in a movie. I'm fine with the villain. It's just when people go at me on Twitter, like now, it's like fairly regularly, people are like, oh, I just watched your season of Survivor, and you're a total jerk. It's like, Robert Downey Jr., not really Iron Man.
Wait, he isn't? Oh, man.
It's a game show. Do you call up people that were on The Price is Right and be like, oh, man, you jacked up that wheel. You spun it wrong. Yeah. It's produced by the same dude.
Yeah. That's hysterical. Scott, I really appreciate your time. I just want to ask you one thing. What are you most grateful for?
My family. My mother, my father, my brothers, sister, my kids, my wife. That's the one thing about the Mormon church that I absolutely incorporate in my life. I'm not a Mormon anymore. I don't go to church. But that gave me that value. That church gave me that value of family. And that's what we do. We create memories. Stuff comes and goes. You can buy stuff. You can earn money. You can buy things that you think are nice or are going to make you happy. But memories make you happy, and memories with your family are the best. And I have a ton of memories, and I hope my kids one day look back and think about all the memories that we were helped to make together, and that we were able to do because of my incredible opportunity to be who I was in the NBA and take them around the world as a result of all those things. So I'm a big guy into making memories.
Yes, awesome. Scott, thanks so much for being on the show. I really appreciate your time. This was a lot of fun.
Thanks, Chris. It was fun.
Yeah. Yes. Is there anything you want to plug? Or do you have any cool stuff going on? Any projects going on that you got, that you want to plug or anything?
Well, like I said, I'm a realtor in Indiana, suburb dad guy. I'm nothing real exciting going on. But if you're in Carmel, Indiana, if you're anywhere in the Indianapolis metro area and you need to buy or sell a house, I'm your guy.
Yeah, one of the guys I actually work with on my network, actually, he just mentioned that he's from around that area. So shout out to Austin. But
realty, we're right here in the village of West Clay, but we service the whole area. I was just out in Fishers today looking at a house with clients. So we're all over.
Awesome. Scot Pollard, thank you so much for being on the show again. Thanks to everyone for tuning in on the podcast. Like I said, appreciate everyone for tuning in. The podcast will come out later in the week. But Scott, once again, thank you so much for your time. This was a pleasure.
Always love talking about the old days.
Yes, Scott. Thank you again, Scott, for coming on. God bless. Take care. Thanks everyone for listening.